Guess how many times I've attempted to be funny during the last hour and a half of filming this video so that I could, like, I don't know, have an interesting opening. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about how to break into the job market. You've never had a job before, you're like 12 or 13 years old, but you want to start making some money on your own, and I have exactly how you're going to be able to do it. I'm not only going to tell you why you should be getting a job, but the job that I had when I was 12, how I got that job, and how you can secure a job when you're that young too. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I post new videos every Monday at noon. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start this off by talking about why you should be getting a job when you're young. And the first one is responsibility. I know that the school system tries to teach you how to be responsible with your schoolwork and having to juggle different subjects and things like that. But at the end of the day, you're not choosing to be in school. Whether or not you enjoy your time at school, you're legally mandated to be there until you're 16. So when you're young, getting a job that you've elected to get only because of the extra benefits and not because of necessity, you're gonna get a lot out of it that you wouldn't get if you're only doing it because you need to. If you're not able to show up on time, if you're not able to make arrangements for things that you're unable to do and perform to the best of your abilities for the things that you can, no employer is ever going to want to hire you, nor are they going to want to keep you on if they do hire you. On a wider scale, being responsible is really important for your social life too. Nobody's gonna elect to be your friend if you always cancel last minute because you misscheduled things and something came up and you don't know how to adapt to something like that, or because you forgot that something else was happening and then it interfered. That wouldn't happen if you were responsible, if you were staying on top of things. Being responsible not only helps you be a good employee, but it helps you be a good friend. Tied in with responsibility is my second reason why you should get a job, and it's time management. Procrastination will eat up every second of time that you have and don't have to spend on the things that you need to be doing. It's the same as when you're doing a bunch of extracurricular activities. You need to be able to manage going to school, doing your extracurriculars, and having time for homework, because if you don't, then one of those two things is going to have to suffer for it. Having those outside responsibilities forces you to prioritize your time. And when you do that, you actually complete things more efficiently, which means faster. You'll actually end up spending less time on the things you don't want to do, like your math homework, for example, by having a job, because you're going to do all your work faster and then have more time for your social life and for your video games or whatever things you actually enjoy doing, because you're going to learn how to accomplish everything in a shorter amount of time. And the final reason why you should get a job when you're young is the big one, which is why I left it to the end, because it's the one that everyone thinks of immediately, so I wanted to address it last. Money. You make money when you work. I cannot tell you how amazing it felt the first time I bought something with my own money, and not like Christmas or birthday money that was just given to you for existing, but like money you actually worked to make. It's so satisfying because you feel like you earned that thing so much more, and you're going to want to spend less money because that money is going to mean more to you, which means you're going to save. Learning how to save as young as physically possible is probably the best thing you can do for your finances over the course of your entire life. When I got a job, my parents immediately said, half of every single paycheck you make is going into your savings account. No questions asked. It doesn't matter if you make $5 that month or $500 that month. Half of it goes into your savings account, and you just forget it exists. And then one day in the future, you'll probably need it and you'll use it for something fun. And that's exactly what happened. When I was in grade 10, I had this amazing opportunity to go on a 10-day trip with my school to France, the Netherlands, and Germany. And I wouldn't have had the money to do that if I hadn't been saving. Just because you get a job when you're young doesn't mean you're gonna have money in the future, because if you don't save it, it disappears. And now we're going to address the question you've all been waiting to hear. Jessica, what job did you have at 12? I was a babysitter. I started to babysit when I was 12 years old, and I know a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, well, that's anticlimactic That's just a job that anybody could get. Yeah, that's my point. We were actually at the same bus stop, and that's how I met them. I babysat for that family for 4 years, all the way up until I turned 16 and got an actual retail job, which is, a real job. I got my job entirely situationally, just from a random connection that I had, but that actually brings me to my first tip on how you can get a job when you're young, which is make connections within your neighborhood. Unless you live on multiple acres of land in the middle of nowhere, I can guarantee you that you have plenty of neighbors, whether you're in an apartment building and you have people all around you, or you live in a cul-de-sac and they're just down the street. There are people everywhere, and they all have something that you can do for them to make money. Getting to know your neighbors will help you understand what kind of business in your neighborhood would be the most effective. Let's say you live in a neighborhood with a lot of really young families. Because there are kids everywhere, being a babysitter might be the perfect job for you. Or on the flip side, let's say you live in a neighborhood with a lot of retired people. Maybe you can go around and mow their lawns, because that's really labor intensive, and it would be a lot easier for them to pay you like $15 to mow their lawn than it would be for them to go out and actually do the physical labor themselves. Figuring out what kind of market is available in your neighborhood will make it a lot easier to figure out exactly what job you can do, especially if you're sitting there knowing that you want to make money but have genuinely no idea how to do it. Just by observing what's going on in your neighborhood, it's going to be the easiest way to figure out what you can do. Oftentimes, when people need something that they don't immediately have or can't easily get, they're going to complain about it. And if you just listen to what they complain about, you can figure out a market that you can weasel your way into and a job that you can perform for them. Also, getting to know your neighbors is a really easy way to get them to actually hire you. People are more likely to hire others they already trust than people they don't know. Tip number 2 is a little bit different than tip number 1, because it's pretty much exactly the opposite. I mean, it's not exactly the opposite, but tip number 2 is go door to door. The reason why I'm saying that, even though I just said that you're more likely to hire somebody you know than some stranger just arriving at your door, is because sometimes, a lot of times, especially if people have a need that isn't currently being filled, it's because they don't know anybody. A lot of times when people have a service that needs to be fulfilled but isn't already being fulfilled, it's because they don't have somebody that they can just turn to in the neighborhood. So by going door to door and say, "Hi, I'm willing to do this thing for you. Do you need this thing to be done?" They're probably going to, "Well, yes, I've been needing my lawn mowed and haven't had time to do it. Sure, I'll give you $10 to do it. That's such a small amount and so much more convenient for me." And then, because they already know you, especially if you do a good job, the next time they need their lawn mowed, who are they going to turn to? The kid who already did a fantastic job and who they already know. Boom, you've made a connection in your neighborhood, and we reverted back to step 1. This also relates back to the point that I made in step 1 about figuring out who needs what service. So like, if you know that a house has a bunch of kids, then maybe knock on that door and see if they need help with childcare, and don't knock on the door with 2 75-year-olds who have great-grandchildren that don't even live with them. If you don't know what houses to knock on, just knock on all of them. But if you do know that some houses are more likely to need your help than others, then maybe go there first, or make sure that you knock on those houses, because you're more likely to have success there. Genuinely, I think tip number 3 that I'm about to share with you is the most important out of all of them, and the reason why I got my job, and it's to be prepared. You want people to want to hire you, and the easiest way to do that is to walk up with this image of, "I know exactly what I'm doing and I'm going to do an amazing job and you should definitely hire me." A really easy way to do this is to bring things that would be applicable to your job. So let's say you want to be a dog walker, bring dog treats, bring poop bags, bring a leash or a collar and a harness. Even though the people's doors you're knocking on are almost 100% going to have those things, because you look ready and prepared that you could walk that dog right in that moment, they're going to be like, "Oh, well, look at you. You look totally like you know what you're doing. Sure, you can walk my dog." They're more likely to trust you if you look like you know what you're doing. And trust is really, really important in situations like this. The same thing applies for the attire you're wearing. If you're walking up and saying, "I'm willing to mow your lawn," be wearing running shoes, be wearing comfortable pants, and maybe a loose fitting shirt, because it's labor intensive and you're probably going to sweat, especially if it's the summertime. By looking like you're ready to do that job in that moment, they're way more likely to say, "Of course, here, do this job for me. I also highly recommend, especially if you're working with children, to do like a babysitter's course. That's the reason why I think I got my job, is because right as I turned 12, a few months before I met the family I babysat for, I did a babysitter's course. And the most important thing they teach you, and really the true selling point, is the fact that they teach you basic CPR and basic first aid that is geared towards children and babies. The peace of mind that it gives a parent to know that if there is a life-threatening situation, you've been taught by a professional how to handle it is astronomically important and will be the deal breaker when it comes to someone willing to hire you. And that's everything. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I post new videos every Monday at noon. My name is Jessica. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.